All right, hello everyone. This is the Craft Talk video on voice and tone in poetry. Tone is all about how we say the things we're saying. It's the emotion behind the words. Tone lets us into the emotional interiority of a poem speaker and lets us get to know them as a character. Voice, on the other hand, can be expressed through a multitude of things. First is diction, which is the word choice of the speaker. If you have a younger speaker, their vocabulary is not going to be as developed as an older speaker. Keep in mind the age of your speaker and the perspective. How do they see the world? What language is available to them to describe that? Speech patterns and dialect are also another part of voice in poetry. Different people have different speech patterns. Because we can't hear accents when we read poetry, as writers, we must create them. If you're from the South, such as myself, you'll be using the word y'all in place of you all or yous guys, however they say it in New Jersey. If you're from the Midwest, you might say pop instead of soda. Pay attention to who your speaker is. Where are they from? What are the typical aspects of their dialect that make them more authentic? The speaker in your poem, if the you, well, okay, side note, never assume that the I of the poem is the writer. Just how we assume in fiction that the I is not the author themselves speaking, but rather a character speaking in first person. But yes, if your speaker is indeed yourself, stay true to your voice. Maybe you have certain phrases that are unique to your life and experience. Don't shy away or whitewash your language so it fits a certain mold. What are some phrases or colloquialisms that are unique to your life? Something perhaps your parents or your grandparents always said to you, that would be a good place to start. For example, when I was younger, I used to play a game with my older cousin called Monkey Dust. It was a mashup of hide and seek and freeze tag. It's a little bit blurry in my memory, but it's a phrase that is unique to me and my experience. So rather than saying in a poem, we hollered tag for hours, I could replace tag with monkey dust. And then this more generic game becomes unique to my specific experience. So switching gears back to tone. Tone is the poet's attitude towards the poem speaker and the subject matter as interpreted by the reader. Again, since we can't hear the emotional inflections of voices in poetry, we have to rely on our language choice to create tone. Think of tone as the emotional aura of the piece. So if your poem's theme is about loss and grief, and the weather in your poem is especially sunny that day, the speaker isn't going to describe the sun as warm and invigorating. Instead, they might describe it as invasive or uncomfortable or even arrogant. They would use negative adjectives to describe something typically received as positive. We know from the way the speaker says these things that, okay, something's wrong with them. Maybe your poem is gazing at a loved one, but a loved one that is irking the ever-living crap out of you. Rather than giving them endearing descriptors, show that tiny bit of spite. Tone is really a playground to show attitude and sassiness and sarcasm even. Don't be afraid to really go there. It's always much easier to reel it back than it is to push to go further. Tone can help indicate what the theme of a poem is to the reader. It's always important to keep in mind the emotional aura of the poem. What do I want the reader to feel coming out of this? And to wrap up, voice, that is what really will help make your poem unique. That will help distinguish you as a writer. If you have a really unique voice in your writing, that could be your ticket. The best poems are the ones that you automatically know who wrote it solely on the voice. You don't have to look up who the author is. You know that this is an Audrey poem or this is a Page poem based on the voice. It's one of those things that excites me most about poetry. So really hone in to your own quirks and experience and always take into consideration the emotional aura of a piece.